Welcome to Good Burger Reviews. This is John, and I'm here to review a brand new 2025 movie, and that movie is Good Boy. This movie was released in October of 2025. It is a supernatural horror film directed by Ben Leonberg. It is starring Shane Jensen, Ariel Friedman, and our leading puppy, Indy. The basic premise: a man moves into a new home that has supernatural forces lurking in the shadows. As dark entities start to threaten him, his brave dog comes to the rescue. Okay, this one is a movie that I would call a concept film or a concept idea film, and we've been getting them quite often here. I think of movies like In Violent Nature, where the concept was we're following the serial killer, or Presence, we're in the point of view of the ghost. There's been other concept movies as well. You know, all movies, I guess, start out as a concept when it's a brand new idea. But it's one of those things where, like Snakes on a Plane, where you hear the idea and it's like, oh, how are they going to do that? How's that going to pan out? How are they going to pull that together in the end? And when I found out that there was a movie starring a dog that is also a ghost supernatural film where a dog is the star in a haunted house, basically, I thought, how in the world are they going to pull that off? And what is the point? And really, the real question I had is there an audience for a movie starring man's best friend battling ghosts? Okay, this movie is a blend of two movies. I think of 1993 Homeward Bound: The Incredible Journey meets The Conjuring or even The Poltergeist. So let's talk about the positives, the mix, and the negatives. The positives in this one. This is, in a sense, a traditional bump in the night, spooks, haunts, ghosts, lurking, demons knocking, all that is very present and I think done quite well in this film. In fact, the standout is probably the demons. They definitely scared me. They are definitely lurking in the shadows, and you know, since we're in the perspective of the man's dog and how dogs react to noises or bumps, you know, you get a whole different and new perspective on that. Another thing that I will put in the positives is the cinematography. I felt like the filming, the shots, the artistic, the blend of the inside of this haunted house along with the woods where the house is located, the fallish feeling, leaves on the grounds, the rain, the dog house. Just so much great thing that was done with the cinematography and the visuals in this one. So what am I mixed on? So I guess there's really two mixes on this one. The big mix is really, and I kind of already questioned this, is who is this movie for really? I mean, you have a story, man's best friend, a dog, who is with his owner. They move into a house that is clearly haunted, and the dog's the star. And the thing is like, I think throughout this movie as I'm watching, I'm like, is this dog gonna suffer from abuse? Should I be mentioning trigger warnings? Does the dog die in this movie? Because anyone who would be interested in this movie, I would assume, would be a dog lover. But dog lovers don't want to see dogs being tortured. They don't want to see dogs being abused. Now, I will say, overall, the dog is not abused in this one. There's a few scenes where I feel like they push the envelope, but there was clarification at the end of the movie how this movie was filmed, how the dog was involved, and what they did with the dog, and what the experience for the actual dog was versus what the film actually is. And it's quite different and interesting. So those of you who go out to see this, there is an explanation mid-credits about how they filmed Good Boy. And I thought even people who don't like dogs, would they really have an interest in this? I mean, the person I went with they're a dog lover, and they weren't a big fan of this. Now, I'm not really a big dog person. I didn't grow up with dogs. I mean, I'm okay with them. I love little ones, little cute ones sometimes because of what I do for a living. I'm not always a fan of dogs that I don't know. But, you know, I was interested because of the concept of this, but I wasn't sure how it was going to play out with, was the dog going to go through something really serious? And the other part where I'm mixed is, did this concept actually land? So I can tell you this, when I saw In a Violent Nature last year, it didn't work for me because there was no tension. Because we're following the footsteps of the killer, we knew where the killer was in all moments, so I never felt scared in that movie. The best thing that movie had to offer were the kills, which the kills were intense and gory, but that was it. The rest is Johnny walking through a field. This movie, it's somewhat similar because I think of the movie Presence, because Presence was a movie where we were in the footsteps of the ghost. And that gave you disconnected feelings from what was going on with the story, because we're only seeing what the ghost sees and when the ghost is actually present in the room. And this was similar. It was kind of a blend of those two things because we're with the dog the whole time. It's hard to understand what's going on because the dog only pays attention to so many things. Like I said, dogs respond to bumps in the night, a noise in the corner, a strange figure, what's going on. And we don't get a clear story of what actually progressed from start to finish because we're really just watching the dog. Sometimes the dog's not in the room. Some of the time the dog is left home alone. Sometimes we don't know what the other star is doing because he leaves the dog at some point, or he's in other parts of the house when strange things are happening. And this will bring me to the negatives, because overall I felt like because of that, because of being in the dog's point of view the whole time, there's no plot. And I think the biggest reason why there's no plot, not only because we're watching this movie with a dog, there's only one other main star. It's the owner. The dog's owner is just one man. This is a story of man and man's best friend. But because there's really not too many other humans around. Now, there are other humans that interact with our main guy, Sean. Basically, his sister's calling him on the phone, so we get some dialogue there. He does talk to the dog so often, but those conversations only go so deep. And then there is a neighbor that is lurking that he is aware of. So just to kind of catch up to the basic idea of this story, Sean moves in with the dog to his grandfather's house. It seems from what we're watching on video and from what he's talking about with his sister, grandfather had lived in the house, grandfather had died in the house. Grandfather was also sick. And it seems Sean is also sick as well. But because we're from the dog's point of view, we really don't know how Sean got sick. And we definitely don't know how Grandpa got sick, but there's a lot of coughing, there's a lot of sleeping, a lot of laying around. And it's like, well, did he get sick from the demon? Or did he get sick because it's constantly raining? We're not sure. And then the neighbor only interacts with this guy and the dog just a little bit. So there's really no plot. There's really no drama. There's really no anything going on except for the dog. And another part where I'm negative is sometimes it seems like some of these things that occur that unravel, it's while the dog's asleep. And I'm like, was that a dream? Did we just watch a dog dream? Because that I'm definitely not a fan of. I'm not a fan of human dreams all the time unless it really fits the plot. Dog dreams even worse. What's the point of sitting through a dog dream? And what do dogs really dream about? Do dogs have dreams like this where they're dreaming of the demons that are stalking them throughout the day and night? So for a movie that's fairly short, it gets fairly repetitive. Because basically we have the dog sniffing around the property, sniffing around the house, and then something scary happens, and then we're filming the dog's reaction. And this dog's reaction, besides just staring or barking or whimpering, there's not too much to the scare. And I'm thinking, is the dog really scared or is the dog really confused? I felt scared because there were jump scares, and some of these jump scares were pointless because, you know, we know the dog's not jumping. The dog never really jumps, but there was this one jump scare in the dog's eye, and then another jump scare, you know, throughout the film that made me jump. So at the end of the day, this was an interesting concept, but I feel like it doesn't fully get pulled off because, I mean, this movie is short, and considering what's going on, it is fairly predictable about, you know, what's going to happen. You know, I'm happy that the dog, you know, overall doesn't go through too much. I will just say spoilers for this part because, you know, if you're going to see this, the dog does survive at the end. And you know, that's a good thing. It's just the sister finally shows up. The sister that's been on the phone the whole time. The sister shows up and rescues the dog. And I feel like because we don't really get a full idea of what went down with the owner, which is Sean, I felt like it was kind of like being like The Others or maybe The Sixth Sense, where like he's dead and the ghost is him. And the dog, you know, you don't really realize it until the end. You know, and it plays off not as this giant reveal that but maybe it was trying to be a big reveal, but it definitely did not come off like the end of The Sixth Sense or the end of the movie The Others, which had a very similar reveal at the end about who the ghosts were. If the characters would have been a little bit better, or maybe more characters in this, I felt like this idea could have played out better if the dog was living with an entire family that was getting haunted, because it could have definitely played off the dynamic of children and the dynamic of the children and the parents and everyone kind of talking. There would have been a little bit maybe more of a storyline, because even a dog is in the room and can pay attention to what adults are saying or what people are doing. But when you just have a guy and a dog, there's not much dialogue. There's not much depth to the conversation. You know, here boys, sit down, lay down, be over there, not in the bed now. So even though this film has some great things going for it, as far as the originality, as far as the scares, as far as the demons, the spooks, the haunts and all that, I feel like overall it doesn't really land. And I think, I'm not sure there's an audience for something like this. And at the end of the day, I'm going to get down to the rating and let you know. For me, this was a veggie burger. Because I feel like it's a solid attempt at a film. It's a solid film from front to start. But it's just lacking in too many areas to really stick the landing. So at the end of the day, if you really like a good haunted movie, this one might be worth a watch. It's probably not worth the trip to the theater. But being that it was released by Shudder, I'm sure it'll be on Shudder soon enough. So those of you who have Shudder, when it hits, go ahead and give this one a watch if you're into haunted houses and stuff like that. And don't forget to stay scared of those demons that haunt you and your puppy when you're home alone at night.